Gospel sensation Jonathan McReynolds just broke down in a raw, emotional moment that's shaking the gospel world. Through tears, he confirmed what fans had only whispered about for years. She was the love of my life, and I lost her. But who was she, and why did he keep it a secret for so long? Trust me, the truth behind this heartbreaking confession will leave you speechless. Jonathan McReynolds has always been the quiet storm of gospel music, powerful vocals, soul-stirring lyrics, and a reputation so clean it's almost untouchable. But recently, everything changed. During a live appearance that stunned fans and insiders alike, Jonathan dropped an emotional bombshell. He finally confirmed a long-rumored love story and a heartbreaking ending that no one saw coming. So what really happened? Who was the woman he once called the love of his life? And why did he keep their relationship and their painful ending under wraps for so long? In this video, we're diving deep into the emotional confessions, behind-the-scenes whispers, and the real reason Jonathan McReynolds has been so guarded all these years. From past interviews that suddenly make sense, to fan theories that turned out to be surprisingly accurate, nothing is off limits. You won't believe what happened between Jonathan and the mystery woman. And trust me, this is where it gets interesting. Stick around, because in just a moment, we're uncovering the first clues that Jonathan's heart had been broken long before the public ever knew. For years, Jonathan McReynolds has been one of the most admired figures in contemporary gospel music, not only for his Grammy-winning voice, but for the way he's carried himself. Clean-cut, private, devoted, he's always kept the focus on his faith and his music. But under the surface, fans have long speculated that Jonathan was hiding something or someone from the public eye. The whispers started early in his career. While other artists in the spotlight often shared their love lives on social media or referenced them in interviews, Jonathan always seemed to sidestep the question. When asked about relationships, he gave generic answers. I'm focusing on God, or I'm waiting on the right time. Admirable, sure, but something about those responses felt rehearsed. In 2018, rumors started swirling when fans noticed subtle shout-outs in his lyrics. Lines like, I know I lost something I didn't deserve, or you were the light I couldn't hold on to, had many speculating that the singer had gone through a painful breakup. Still, Jonathan never addressed the whispers directly, until now. Some fans went as far as connecting him with certain women in the gospel and R&B scene. A few believed he had dated a well-known gospel singer whose name repeatedly popped up in fan threads, someone equally private, equally spiritual, and equally careful about their public image. Others thought the woman wasn't in the industry at all, which would explain why Jonathan kept her completely out of the spotlight. But what added fuel to the fire was a cryptic Instagram post Jonathan made in 2010 during the height of the pandemic. It showed him alone at the piano, captioned simply, "Some things don't end belle, they just echo differently." The post went viral in gospel circles. People asked, was this about a failed relationship? A lost love? Fans couldn't help but speculate, yet Jonathan remained silent until now. And when he finally spoke, it wasn't through a carefully worded press release or a passive-aggressive song lyric. It was raw, it was real, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. But here's the shocking part they don't want you to know. This wasn't just a breakup. According to people close to the situation, this woman may have shaped Jonathan's entire approach to love, music, and ministry. We'll get into that in the next section. She changed everything. The woman behind Jonathan's most emotional songs. Behind every great artist is often a muse, someone who inspires, challenges, and sometimes breaks them in ways the world never sees. And for Jonathan McReynolds, that muse wasn't just a fleeting relationship or a casual encounter. According to those who've worked closely with him, she was the one. The woman who influenced some of his most vulnerable, soul-searching music, even if we never knew her name. So who was she? Multiple sources have hinted at a woman Jonathan dated privately in his late 20s, someone deeply rooted in faith just like him. She wasn't just beautiful, they say. She was powerful, grounded, and knew exactly who she was in Christ. And more importantly, she understood the pressure Jonathan faced as a rising star in the gospel world. That bond, it made their connection rare, but also fragile. Fans have long suspected that songs like Cycles, Make Room, and even the heart-wrenching Lover of My Soul were layered with dual meanings. Sure, they're worship songs, but some of the lyrics sound deeply personal, more like conversations between a man and someone he lost, not just between a believer and God. Take this line from Cycles. See the devil, he learns from your mistakes, even if you don't. At face value, it's spiritual, but dig deeper and it feels like a confession. Someone haunted by the loss of something they couldn't hold on to. Someone maybe repeating patterns they wish they had broken earlier. Even in his live performances, there were moments when Jonathan's voice cracked, his eyes welled up, and his tone shifted. One fan tweeted in 2022 during a live recording, "Why do I feel like Jonathan's singing to someone who's not here anymore?" That one comment got over 20,000 likes because thousands of fans felt it too. Insiders say the relationship began when Jonathan was just stepping into his mainstream spotlight. He was still navigating what it meant to be a gospel artist in an industry that doesn't always prioritize purity, boundaries, or emotional well-being. But she supported him, she prayed with him, she even inspired him to write more from the heart than from the market. But here's where it gets tragic. Somewhere along the way, the fame, the constant touring, and the pressure to always be perfect got in the way. According to a close friend, Jonathan was torn between love and calling. He chose his calling, and by the time he realized what he'd lost, it was too late. The woman had moved on, quietly, without drama. No public breakup, no messy headlines. Just a silent goodbye that left Jonathan to process it all alone in his music. And that's when fans began to notice something different. His lyrics got deeper, his tone more reflective. His Instagram, once filled with behind-the-scenes smiles and fun moments, became more contemplative, even lonely at times. In a podcast interview from early 2023, Jonathan was asked what inspired his writing style. His response? Pain. The stuff I didn't talk about in church, the things I lost that I didn't even know how to pray about until they were already gone. He didn't name names, but the pain in his voice told us everything we needed to know. And now, after all these years, Jonathan has finally confirmed it. She was real. She was the love of his life. And yes, he lost her, but was it really just fame that got in the way? Or is there something even deeper, even more heartbreaking behind this story? For years, fans questioned why Jonathan McReynolds, a man known for transparency in his music, seemed so guarded about his personal life. Why keep such a major relationship, the one that apparently inspired his deepest work, hidden from the public? What was he trying to protect, or was he trying to protect himself? To understand why Jonathan never went public with his relationship, we have to understand the unspoken pressure that comes with being a male gospel star, especially one as young, handsome, and influential as him. In gospel culture, artists are often held to unrealistic standards of purity, perfection, and emotional restraint. The moment you show vulnerability or admit to loving, losing, or even desiring someone, people start questioning your anointing. And for Jonathan, who came into the industry as a young, single man singing about spiritual battles, opening up about a romantic relationship would have shifted his image overnight. According to people who knew them both, Jonathan and his mystery woman had an agreement to love each other in private. He didn't want his ministry to be judged. She didn't want her identity reduced to Jonathan McReynolds' girlfriend. They were trying to build something sacred without letting the public pull it apart. But secrecy comes with a cost. What started as protection slowly turned into emotional isolation. Insiders say the woman began to feel like a secret, not a priority. There were no date night photos, no love songs with names, no public affirmations. While Jonathan might have been protecting her from scrutiny, she began to feel hidden, like she didn't belong in his world. In a now deleted Facebook post from someone who was reportedly close to her, there was a cryptic quote shared shortly after the relationship ended. If he's too scared to love you out loud, he doesn't deserve your silence behind closed doors. Whether or not it was directed at Jonathan, the message was clear. She had walked away, quietly, yes, but also for her own healing. But here's where things get even more painful. Jonathan didn't fight for her. According to close sources, he let her go, not because he didn't love her, but because he thought loving her publicly would risk everything he had built. His platform, his brand, his place in a church culture that still shames vulnerability. And that decision haunted him. In a rare moment of unfiltered honesty during a Q&A at a private gospel retreat, in late 2024, Jonathan admitted, "I lost someone, because I thought hiding her was protecting us. But the truth is, I was hiding my fear, and it cost me the best thing I ever had." That's the quote that resurfaced this year. That's the moment that made fans realize this wasn't just a what could have been story. This was a love that lived, breathed, and broke quietly behind the scenes. And finally, Jonathan was ready to speak on it. So why now? Why is he opening up in 2025 after years of silence? According to a source close to Jonathan, the recent death of a fellow gospel artist made him rethink everything. Life is short, love is fragile. And maybe, just maybe, keeping it all bottled up was doing more harm than good to him and to the fans who looked to him for healing through music. But what about the woman? Where is she now? And did she ever respond to Jonathan's emotional confession? That brings us to the most surprising part of this story. In section 4, did she ever come back? Her silent response to his public confession. When Jonathan McReynolds publicly admitted that she was the love of my life, fans were left breathless. It was a rare moment of raw vulnerability from a man who had mastered the art of keeping his personal life private. The confession stirred up old emotions, ignited new conversations, and even brought some fans to tears. But there was still one lingering question. Did she hear it? And if she did she respond? Sources close to both parties say yes, she definitely heard it. While she didn't post a direct response or grant any interviews, those in her circle say she was deeply moved by the confession. And more importantly, she had no idea Jonathan was going to say any of it. He hadn't reached out. He hadn't warned her. It came as a surprise, like a public pouring out that caught even those closest to her off guard. Now, here's where it gets even more intriguing. A few weeks after Jonathan's emotional admission, fans noticed a sudden change in her social media activity. No names, no cryptic captions. But the shift was clear. She posted a black and white photo of a closed piano accompanied by the quote, "Some melodies were never meant to be completed, just remembered." It didn't take long for fans to connect the dots. Comments flooded the post. "Are you talking about Jonathan? This sounds like a response to what he said. This is heartbreak in a sentence." She never confirmed or denied anything. But sometimes silence is louder than words. And let's not forget, gospel fans are investigators when it comes to subtle clues. They pointed out that she liked a clip of Jonathan singing "Make Room" just days after his confession. For someone who'd stayed silent for years, that one tiny gesture said everything. But does this mean there's hope? Is there a chance they might reconnect, even just for closure? According to a longtime friend of Jonathan's, he's not expecting her to come back. He said what he said because he needed to heal, not because he wanted to reopen old wounds. He's finally facing the pain instead of hiding from it. That was for him. but if she ever reached out, you best believe he'd pick up. Still, the possibility of reconciliation remains open, not in a fairy tale sense, but in a very real adult way. Two people who deeply loved each other, separated by time, fear, and fame, but bound by a connection that shaped them both. And in a recent live video, one that fans are still replaying and analyzing, Jonathan said something that might be the most revealing yet. Some people walk into your life to make you better, not to stay forever. But that doesn't mean their love wasn't real, or that you ever stopped loving them. That statement struck a chord with thousands, because many could relate. The one that got away, the person who changed your entire trajectory, the person you still pray for, even when they're no longer in your life. But there's still one last chapter to this story, and it's the one that Jonathan himself is only just beginning to write. In the final section, we're exploring what all of this means for Jonathan's future as a man, an artist, and a believer. What's next for him now that the truth is out? Is he finally free to love again? After years of quiet suffering and emotional songwriting, Jonathan McReynolds has finally unburdened his heart. His tearful confession that she was the love of his life has not only shaken the gospel world, but also revealed a man who is no longer afraid to let the world see his humanity. And now the question on everyone's mind is, what comes next? For Jonathan, this moment of honesty could be a turning point, not just in his personal life, but in his entire ministry. He's always been admired for his ability to put emotion into lyrics, but now that fans know where much of that emotion came from, it's given his music new weight. His audience isn't just listening anymore, they're feeling every word. Insiders say Jonathan is already working on his next album, and this one will be the most personal yet. It's being described as a healing project, a journey through heartbreak, acceptance, forgiveness, and finally, freedom. One producer close to the project said, "You're going to hear the truth, not just the polished Sunday morning praise songs. This is the Jonathan who's been through it and still has hope." He's also reportedly considering writing a book, not a memoir, but a devotional style reflection on love, loss, and God's grace in the in-between moments. He wants to help people who, like him, had to choose purpose over passion, or thought they did. But beyond the music and the ministry, Jonathan is stepping into something even more important: emotional wholeness. He's been seen attending mental health conferences, partnering with organizations that support men in ministry, and speaking out more openly about the importance of processing grief, not just pushing past it with religious platitudes. In a recent sermonette at a church appearance in Atlanta, Jonathan looked out over the congregation and said, "I used to think that love lost meant failure. But now I know it just means you were brave enough to love at all." It was met with a standing ovation, not because of the perfection of the message, but because of the raw truth behind it. Jonathan isn't trying to be the perfect gospel star anymore. He's just trying to be real, honest, whole. And that honesty is giving others permission to heal, too. So, will he ever get back together with the woman he once loved? Maybe, maybe not. But what we do know is this: Jonathan McReynolds is no longer hiding behind lyrics. He's living them. And in doing so, he's becoming even more powerful, not in image, but in impact. Because sometimes the most anointed testimony isn't about victory, it's about vulnerability.